I want to speak today about discovering a new faith in human kindness. At so many points, human kindness is easily dismissed and discarded, and we choose other behavior for preference. So today, reflect with me on recovering a faith, a new faith in human kindness. Have you noticed that when you cut off your flow of kindness, your eyes narrow and your facial muscles tighten and your personality starts to shrivel up? Have you noticed that when someone is showing you some kindness, your face lightens up? Your heart seems to beat more freely and you feel good. And the world is a better place. Leo Tolstoy, that great novelist, said, "Nothing can make our life or the lives of others more beautiful than acts of kindness." Or the Hindu, Basavana, said, "What sort of religion can it be without compassion? Compassion is the root of all religious faiths." Yes, indeed. And Jesus of Nazareth said, "The one who showed kindness." He held up the virtue of kindness. And St. Paul in the epistle, if it was St. Paul who wrote that passage, he said, "Be kind to one another, tender-hearted, accept one another." So what gets into us? What gets into us that we can so quickly switch into hating, into hostility, into cat-clawing unkindness, into ugly words, into so many behaviors that endorse a lesser humanity, and that these things leave us with long smudges on our personality, damaging our best relationships. Even in the church, even in this church, several people have told me that they were attracted to St. Michael's by our various advertisements. They said, "Yes, this seems to be a place we'd like to be at." But when they got here, they ran into people, not all of us surely, but into people snitching at one another. Kindness was conditional, it seemed, or not coming too close. Have you noticed? One person's attitude or mood can be like a blowfly getting into your kitchen when all the food is laid out ready. One blowfly can buzz around and affect everything. So when we know the power of kindness, why do we let ourselves be overtaken by these acts that are so self-defeating, so unkind? Of course, not only should we ask that question, I'd like us to explore the answers. Why do we do it? Kindness is built into our nature, so they say, but so is nastiness and hostility and non-kindness. Kindness needs a lot of understanding and rehearsal and reinforcement. Nastiness and aggravated resistance needs to be faced up to, just as the blowfly needs to be faced up to and kept off the goodness of the waiting meal. So why do we let unkindness take over and infect the whole lot of our life? I'm going to give you a couple of reasons, and you might give more. First, I think because we can be so easily persuaded that we are vulnerable, or some insecurity is sitting there, or we feel under threat. Yes, we're under threat. And we swoop around like the magpie, defending its nest when the nest is not really being threatened. We see the behaviour these days, particularly on the wider scene, out there, outside these doors, where the placards say, "Stop the boats." Stop the boats is the cry. And it may well be that we should stop the boats. But before we do you know how many refugees are looking for a new life in the world today? Just take a couple of examples. As put forward by the United Nations, Afghanistan, there are 3 million refugees. In Iraq, nearly 2 million. In Somalia, nearly 1 million. These people are looking for a home. And do you know the 4 countries that host the most refugees? Pakistan, Iran, Syria, Germany. Makes you think, doesn't it? Stopping the boats, many countries are trying to stop boats or stopping people coming in across their borders. But we're now dealing with a huge international, shall I call it a crisis? A huge international phenomenon. And just stopping the boats doesn't seem to be an intelligent way to deal with this huge humanitarian problem. And surely it's about time politicians of both parties, all parties, stop this stupidity, in my view, this unintelligent shouting at each other, and say, look here is a huge problem. How can we be a neighbour to people in such distress? Be sure of this. I don't think you or any one of us, any people anywhere, would get onto one of those boats just for a joyride. They are in great need. They may be doing it the wrong way. All of that is true. But we might be doing it the wrong way too. So that's the first thing. We feel vulnerable, we're insecure, we're under threat. And so we forget kindness. Forget it. That's stupid. That's sissy stuff. This is a harsh world. The second thing, we find unkindness and ungenerosity in our hearts. Of course, because we've been hurt and we have not been healed. Or we've got some kind of a floating negative mood here that we've allowed to magnify rather than be effectively managed. And so we allow unkindness to take over. Or thirdly, we have a perception of ourselves. We don't want to be seen to be soft on this or that. We want to be tough. Kindness is for the soft and frothy, unreal world. The real world is a hard world. Deals in power and prejudice, in hate, and all that gathers round those emotions, those words. Or fourthly, we misunderstand the damage we do to ourselves. That's what happens when we allow unkindness to overtake our kindness. We misunderstand the damage that we do to ourselves, to our own reputation, if you like, to what people think of us, or to our relationships, or to the social fabric. Indeed, when we let unkindness take over, we are changing our understanding of the meaning of life. Many people say to me, what is the meaning of life? We could say kindness, couldn't we? Kindness one to the other and to ourselves. There are many instances of sheer wretchedness and despair and damage being done to human beings, to the human communities and to the planet as it is polluted, and great heaps of rubbish are left behind wherever human beings seem to go. But there are signs of a spiritual evolution taking place to reinstate the ethic of compassion and the practice of kindness. We ought to be part of it. We ought to be part of it in our small corner of the world. We're now seeing more clearly that if you want to be happy, practice a little kindness. Patch Adams, that doctor of great renown who was also trained as a clown, he told people, when you're depressed, go out and do something kind to another person. Do some good, and you'll find your mood will change. Practice a little kindness. If you want the world to be a safer place, practice a little kindness. If you're inclined to dismiss this, then let me bring you some very personal concerns. Let me bring you some personal concerns about kindness. Just let kindness loose into your bloodstream. There is a substance generated in the brain, and the scientists now realize it also is generated in the heart. And when it is released, it travels right through the body. It's called oxytocin. Oxytocin. A more colloquial word for it is the love hormone. Every act of kindness, act of love, act of compassion releases oxytocin into the bloodstream. Oxytocin studies have shown that it changes our negative feelings about ourselves and other people, and it causes us to find other people more attractive. Worth a thought. Henry James, that 19th century American author, British author, he wrote, 3 things in human life are important. 3 things. The first is to be kind. The second is to be kind. And the third is to be kind. So, number 1, the oxytocin, the inner self, the bloodstream. Number 2, kindness, would you believe it, contributes to our psychological health. I have here this book, The Art of Happiness, which is an interview book with the Dalai Lama. And he said in the book, cultivating positive mental states like kindness and compassion definitely lead to better psychological health and to happiness. You'd believe it, wouldn't you? There are plenty of studies that attest to it. Thirdly, kindness, with its close ties to the oxytocin, protects us against the hardening of our arteries, so the studies show. Protects the heart from damage and works to repair a broken heart. Kindness. In one research study, less than a quarter of adults between the ages of 25 and 75 felt that they had something good to give to life. Would you believe that? A quarter of that population of people between the ages of 25 and 75. It was an American study, to be sure, but it probably applies here as well. But those who did feel they had something good to give and were generous in their positive moods, these people were in better emotional health. They had fewer days off work. They had fewer physical health problems in their daily lives. Of course, you see, we here can settle for being a microcosm of what we see in the outer world, where hostility and hate are so easily practiced, where the overt and covert currents of negative emotions so frequently abound, or we here can become an example of those greater possibilities of goodness, of generosity, of grace, such as the words I used in the prayers today. Well, number 4, kindness is being expressed through various volunteer programs. Some say, I work all the week, I don't want to be a volunteer. Why should I be expected to be a volunteer? Of course, that's your choice. But studies show that volunteers do great work for others. And volunteering is a source of well-being in the self. One such excellent example that you can hold right out in front is the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. How many men and women over generations have been a huge help to other people in the AA program, and in so doing have grown themselves, grown in kindness, grown in stature, grown in well-being. Kindness. A word we don't often want to use. Generosity, well-being. These words also play a part in our aging. Did you know that? Yes, in our aging. In 1976, way back there, Dr. Elizabeth Blackburn discovered what are called telomeres. They are the ends of our DNA and protect the DNA. But it also was discovered that women, I don't know about the men, the study was about women, women who had high stress had shorter telomeres than the women not so stressed. And the study reported that the stressed women who had lost telomere length equivalent to a decade of normal aging. Now that's hardly believable, but there it is. In order to help lift kindness and lower stress, I recommend to people again and again a kindness meditation. So if you followed me to this day, I've been talking about how it changes our inner functioning, how it affects our health, physical health, how it affects our emotional and psychological health, and of course our relationships, what part it plays in our volunteering programs and our aging. But then I come down and say, but let me be more practical still. I'd like to put to you this kindness meditation that I have often used. Very simple. You simply sit in a quiet place and allow a little time to breathe gently, to relax and create a peaceful mind, so that there in the stillness, you develop a little bit of empathy with your inner self and with the idea of kindness. The idea of kindness. And then you say simple words. May kindness flow around my heart. May kindness flow through my body. May kindness flow from me to others. May I talk words of kindness. May I think thoughts of kindness. May I feel the flow of kindness. Of course, there are times when complaining and agitation seem to be totally justified. But kindness and generosity bring a new level to our physical and mental health, to our social relationships, our sense of being alive, and to the meaning of life. So in our personal living, in our larger world awareness, we need to refine our humanitarian heart. We need to refine our humanitarian compass. We need to refine our humanitarian principles. We need to refine our humanitarian action. And a new faith is needed. The old faith hasn't done it. A new faith is what is necessary and what is possible. A new faith in human kindness. Wherever there is kindness, human beings are enlarged. Wherever there is kindness, the world is a happier place. But we do need to be vigilant. One blowfly can destroy years of generosity and decades of that kindness which is commended in Holy Writ as one of the most important of all the virtues. Would you please stand?